Hello and welcome to yet another edition of Network 18. Ayman brings to you Yuva Bharat. Now, Yuva Bharat has always focused on issues that are relevant to the youth. On the occasion of our 72nd Republic Day, greetings to all our viewers. And what we have tried to do today, along with Ayman and Rishabh Shah, who's also joining us at this point, is to try and get together first time parliamentarians and try and understand from them what their goal is, not just in public life, but also for India as a nation. Bharat in 2050 is the larger ambit, and we'll discuss various issues. So, joining us today is Ritesh Pandey. He is MP from the Ambedkar Nagar constituency in Uttar Pradesh. He represents the Bahujan Samaj Party. Bharat Ram Margani is from Rajamandri, Andhra Pradesh. He belongs to the YSR Congress Party. Anubhav Mohanty, Kendrapara, Odisha, the Biju Janata Dal. So we have multiple political parties who may or may not want to consider themselves as part of the opposition today. But their role in building the country is as important as anybody else who's whichever the disposition in power today. So this makes a fantastic discussion today. And I'm going to ask Rishabh that you guys do this at Iman very regularly. The ability for the youth to come together for a collective goal that is India. So why don't you, since you've helped curate and bring together varied voices from the political spectrum, start this off, and then we'll take it to the others.
No, I think, firstly, to all the three panelists, thank you for joining. And what you did mention, Anand, the fact that young people and people across party lines should put the nation's interest first. And if you put the nation's interest first, I think automatically we have 600 million people below the age of 35. So if all of these people start doing that, then automatically India is only going to be propelled forward. We've got three parliamentarians, and I'd love to hear the same from them. So what they think about this and what they think about putting the country first. So if I could start with Ritesh ji.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, for me, basically, the idea of India comes from, our party's ideologue and also the vision that Baba Sahib Ambedkar had for India, which is very much what you just laid out by quoting the words from the Constitution. Annihilation of caste, gender equality, you know, push towards sustainable and inclusive access. This is how I would imagine India to be moving forward. And, access to education, healthcare, jobs, especially, and you can see, across the country, this is one area where we are sort of lacking behind. And this is where, in my view, we need to move forward towards and be progressive in this regard.
True. I think very nicely put up. Before I go across to Anubhav, let me ask Bharat Margani. You're coming from a region which is seeing a lot of flux in the last 4 5 years. There's also the issue of building identity, building a new dynamic. But is the larger cause of India lost, or is it there?
The idea of India, in my perspective, I'll tell. Let us be candid. The world knows that our land is of completely of Sanatan Dharma. So thereby, our land, the world knows it. Our land is of Sanatan Dharma. Let's the performing of eternal and ordained duties incumbent upon the Indians. This is one part, but after we became independent and our constitution, which is federal in nature, came into the embodies into the modern India. So, and it defines India with the modernity. Our honorable Prime Minister said is an idea of aspirations and the idea of opportunities. So let's concede that the youth of the India is always with the thought of modern India. So India is completely with the opportunities and compete with the rest of the world. But I tell you, not only with the modernization, but of Sanatan Dharmas, our roots, we have to preserve our roots and what our forefathers have followed. In this aspect, I would say both the modernization and all the youth have to come upgrade, ameliorate, and also with this,
Hmm.
our dharmas also has to be followed, which has to go in hand.
But here's the thing, Bharat.
Sorry.
You talked about you talked about culture, and when you said that what our civilization is, Sanatana Dharma did not talk about, or Sanatana Dharma does not. We need to understand this. I don't know if the youth of today understands that it never talked about particular theology. It was actually a path, the path that said that Akashat Patitam Toyam Yatha Gachati Sagaram. That means from the sky the water falls, takes the form of various rivers, but eventually goes back to the same Sagara. So that means you may have different paths, but they all end up at one common goal. That is how the entire cosmic theory was formed. But the same thing today, Anubhav, if I may ask you, do we as a nation believe, or can we as a nation believe, that we may have different ideologies politically, we may have different leanings politically, we may believe in different faiths, but our common goal has to be one, that is the growth of our country, the benefit of our country? Is that possible? So I'm just using what an ancient phrase is, that everything leads to one common goal, that is the Sagara. So in this case, all our efforts have to lead to one common goal, that is the growth and the beauty and the best for Bharat. Is that possible?
Hello to all the delegates. It's an honor for me to be a part of this wonderful VC, which doesn't speak about any particular political party, a region, a religion, nothing like that, caste, creed, nothing. It's just above everything else. And we, the politicians, people's representatives, we work for people. We are elected by the people. So today we are here to talk about them, their future, their livelihood and their happiness, and what about having a beautiful, brave new India or a brave new world? If I'm asked about India, I would say that if I were to summarize the idea of India, so India is an unfinished, and it's an unfinished race where every one of us are mere sprinters with no concept of a finish line. The more you run, the better your recording timing.
You know, frankly, it's interesting what you talked about, like things merging into the Sagara and everything. You know, it's nice to imagine it like that, but politics is different. And since, India is going to be driven by politics, has been driven by politics in the past, it's important to know and understand that, we need a balance between community and individuality.
Yeah.
In India, these two things are very, very important. An American style, capitalist driven sort of individualism, it does not work here because our society is very, very unequal.
Yeah.
And so in any case, I do believe, our sense of community and belongingness, that's our strength. But we must find space for individual expression, for diverse people and their diverse ideals, their gender and sexuality, their religious inclinations, their beliefs, their linguistic identities. And as you have seen over the years, these are this sort of the the strings that are being pulled politically, at least in all different parts of the state, and that is where it's important for us as a nation to move forward. It's important to find a balance.
Here's where I'm trying to steer the discourse in terms of what your vision is and what our vision collectively has to be for India 25 years from now. It all, like you said, if it is driven by politics, then what should drive the politics? What should drive the political narrative? Should it be that if the increase, should we follow an increased tribalization that we are seeing, or that we see in America, where it is Republican and Democrats are so hard, deep entrenched that they've forgotten that the larger goal is the greatness of their, irrespective of which party you belong, which we feel that everybody else, if they do it, we as a nation will do better. That's where I'm trying to steer your thoughts. So let's start with Bharat, and then I'll bring you Rishabh, jump in whenever you want. Yes, Bharat.
So I feel that three qualities one should possess. So the pragmatism is the one particular word I admire all the while. And the meritocracy is the second word I admire. And the third point is honesty. So whoever don't have the merit also, they've been elected as the parliamentarians or maybe they are the head of the parties, because you see the hierarchy. It's almost like the dynasty politics. That is how India is lacking growing. And also, obviously, when the country wants to grow, you should see the honesty level without zero corruption, from the bottom to the top, the hierarchical level. The honesty, when you could see these three qualities possessed in any politician, then they will completely change the topography of the country.
I was wanting to actually quickly elucidate on what you were mentioning very briefly, where you mentioned the fact that things are changing in India. When we teach students about the concept of India in all these 160 cities across the country, done it in about 200 plus cities, and annually in these cities, when we go out there and when we organize these conferences and tell them, the hope is that, and we simulate the Lok Sabha. So somebody becomes Ritesh Pandeyji, somebody becomes Bharatji, somebody becomes Anubhav Mohanty, and they try to come up with solutions to the problems of our country. There, because they do not understand the party ideology so much, they are putting the nation's interest first. The point that I wanted to make, Anand, is that unfortunately what happens, and I've seen this with students from IIMN actually becoming elected members of government and then on actually assuming responsibility at the highest level. When the party comes into the picture, and with no disrespect to any political party, when the party comes into picture, then the politics starts. The politics are never there when they're 19 and 18 and they are trying to push the case of an India first. But when you start with electoral politics and actual politics on ground, and of course, I don't understand it as well as the elected members of parliaments do. But like I said, having closely observed these young people, I can tell you as a matter of fact that if for once the party stops saying, this is the ideology that was propagated by so and so, and this was the ideology propagated by so and so, we'll have a country in which actually we will be able to harness the power of young people. And rather than complaining about things such as linguistic chauvinism and putting X and Y and Z, we will be putting the country's issues first. And that's what the problem is. That, and I hope sincerely that, I understand the reality on ground, but I sincerely hope that our first-time parliamentarians actually start putting, are not like what we are seeing repeatedly in parliament. And therefore, and I must at the risk of I rarely would say this, but young people do not respect some of the politicians. In fact, most of the politicians who are in different political parties, who have been in power for a long period of time across political parties, we look at you with hope, with that utopian hope, saying that, look, you're the ones who are going to bring about that draconian change, so that in 25 years from now, we're going to be having a better India as compared to having the same India that we've been seeing from the last 70 years, which we are frankly very tired of.